All right, all right, all right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna. I pray everybody is doing well. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me well. Just go ahead and put peace in the chat if you can hear me and all is well. We are going to get back on topic as Queen and Zinga noted. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me make sure I'm here and I'm on and I can be heard. I left my phone inside. Let me go ahead and type before I start talking. Can I be heard? Can I be heard? I can't even, I think I can double check. Let me see if I can double check on the other side. If I pull up the stream on the other side, let me see if I could be heard. There may be a bit of a delay. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Not sure. I don't see anybody saying they can hear me. I'm a little bit far from the router. That may be the issue. We're going to see before I start talking. Yeah. Yep. Any sound. Let me see here. Not getting any feedback. Okay, you can be heard. All right, we can go forward now. I'm a little far from the router, so if it's a little choppy, let me know, and then we can see what we can do. But since I can be heard, let's see some of the concerns. Yes, we are back on topic tonight. We are back on topic. Queen Nzinga says, I do take issue with all this talk of masculine and feminine. There was a time no one liked that. Men calling women female. It's kind of disrespectful to me. I don't call men males. Well, thank you for sharing that. However, what I do see is the reversal in behavior of the sexes, and that's what we're here to talk about. There's a lot of talk about masculine and feminine. I think a lot of the talk is misinformed. I've been talking about it for quite some time. I think I'm quite excited that people are talking about it, because when we talk about things that are not clarified, it gives us an opportunity to clarify, right? So it may make us feel uncomfortable, but for me, I guess because I like getting to the root of things, it's okay when we talk about things that make us a bit discomfort, so that we can source through that, unpack it, get an understanding, and move beyond it, right? So it's like digging up the garage, or digging up the closet or the attic or whatever. You got to go in there and see what it is. And so this talk about masculine, feminine, I think it's being used in the wrong way. Um, and so hopefully here we'll be having these discussions that will help us to contribute positively to the conversation. John says the white feminist movement destroyed. Okay, y'all starting early, uh, y'all starting early. Hey, what's going on, Sadaka? What's going on? Shalom, shalom, shalom. Y'all are starting early, but before I go into this little article that I wanted to read, it's interactive. Hopefully, we can see if we agree or don't agree together. But before we do, let's hear some feedback. John says the white feminist movement destroyed all the traditional family roles the black family had by telling the black woman is the backbone of the black nation, and you don't need a black man. There's a lot of stuff we're gonna have to talk about. That's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show. That's why we talk about masculine and feminine now, as the past 60 years has destroyed what is masculine and feminine. Even Imuna has a few concepts wrong. Hey, I'm open to having some few concepts wrong. If you can outline for me what are some of the concepts that I have wrong, then we could take a look at that as well. Then this is why today I was going to go into an article that wasn't written by me, so we can see whether or not we agree or disagree. Some of my concepts is something that you can observe in nature. It's something that you can observe, because there's ideologies and then there's universal truth, right? That you can't go and tinker it, no matter how much times the scientists try to do so. And so I have thoughts on things, but I try to, for the most part, stick to what people, without me even being there, they can look for themselves and observe for themselves and determine for themselves. Um, John says hello to the chat. Uh, so people, my issue oftentimes with this masculine and feminine conversation is that automatically people go to humans right away. To me, that's the error. It's like the minute we talk about masculine and feminine energy, automatically we go to relationships between men and women, right? And if you go through, for those who do subscribe to Torah, men and women are not created until the sixth day, way later. All of these concepts, these universal truths that we're talking about exist before humanity. According to Genesis account, it's even on the map. That means when I'm talking about it personally, it's something that we can observe outside of humans. Therefore, human beings can't come and necessarily corrupt it. So when I talk about masculine and feminine energy, I'm not talking about male and female. I'm talking about the energy, the principle of what each one is and how they interface with one another. And I think if we continue to look only through the lens of man and woman relationship, we're going to miss a lot of things along the way. That's just my thoughts. Hopefully I cleared that up. But I look forward to John telling me some of the ones that I may have got misunderstood. He says the roles of masculine and feminine have been reversed. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing talked about this, and so did Shaza. Before we can say reversed, we have to say what they are. We have to grasp first what they are before we can say where they are and where they are not. For me, if it's not adequately defined and something that I think it was brought up the other day that we can all say, yes, this is a working definition. If we don't have a working definition, it's going to be nothing but confusion. Humans are not animals. We talk about human, God created a man and a woman. Yeah, I'm not hopefully as we go along. No, humans are not lower being animals, but humans do not they don't have a monopoly on what is masculine and feminine. We're trying to use it in the context of society and the construct of the things that we can understand, but they don't have a monopoly. Human beings don't have a monopoly on what is masculine and feminine. That's my point. And I think that is what's being missed. It's in creation. It's in the principle of sowing and reaping. It's in the earth and the seed. It's in the sun and the moon. You understand what I'm saying? It's in all of these places. This energy is all around us, and it together these things create. It's even in electricity. The feminine wall socket, this latent energy that's waiting for this male, the protruding, the giver, your plug to go in it, and together when they connect you have power. My point is, it's not just in the Shahzad Ali talking about the man and the woman. It's beyond that, and if we grasp it beyond it, I think it will help us as we talk about the relationships and how to get them back in order. That's just my thought. Or maybe they're gonna say Moon is out there flying high, tripping, but okay, so we're gonna go into. Thank you guys for that. We started off popping now. We're going to look at this article and see if we agree or disagree with some of the things that it's bringing up. Okay. So this particular article is about self-improvement. I'm all about self-improvement. And it's on a website called Ineffable Living, Mental Health and Well-Being. We all talk about people need healing, people need therapy, but these are the things we have to be willing to go through the actual, what we're doing now. We agree, we disagree, we go home, we think about it, we come back, we meditate on it while we're drinking our tea. It's a process, right? And it's not something that you just sprinkle fairy dust on the crowd and then all of a sudden they've improved. It doesn't work like that. So the article is Masculine versus Feminine Energy, How to Identify and Balance Your Strength Energy. Each one of us has two energy within himself or herself, right? The masculine and feminine, the giver and the taker, the receptive. Where's the other list I had here? That's what it means when it's saying masculine. What is the function of what is happening? The masculine energy makes us strong, confident, and independent. It helps us to operate in the outer world. The thought is that a lot of women today are in their masculine energy. They're too strong, too confident, and too independent. Okay, so what's the opposite of strong? One would say weak. What's the opposite of confident? One would say You lack confidence. What's the opposite of independent? Dependent, right? So is this what we're looking for women to become? Just I'm asking questions. Yeah, don't jump on me. I'm just asking questions. The feminine energy, on the other hand, makes is creative and intuitive. It helps us love and connect with others. Can we agree with these two things? If we agree, type of one. If we don't agree, type of two. Masculine energy makes us strong, confident, and independent. This is what the author is asserting. It helps us to operate in the outer world, right? There's a lot of cultures where males are thought to, their realm of government is in the outer world. They're supposed to be in some thoughts in society, they're supposed to be in politics and government and building and engineering and doing things in the outer world. Oftentimes, the woman is thought to do things and be in their rightful place, quote unquote, in the inner world, right? This goes to also the function of the person. The woman's function of what she's doing, it's internally. When we talk about reproduction, I'm only using reproduction because it helps to illustrate the difference between the male and the female. Her workings is inner, his workings is outer, right? So this article is talking about inner and outer. And while the two energies are essential for most of us, one of these energies is stronger than the other. This can create some issues. If you have more of the masculine energy, you might find it hard to stop working and let go of control, right? On the other hand, if you have more of the feminine energy, you might struggle to make decisions and get things done. Now, this is talking about these both energies in that same person, not outside of the person. In this case, they're talking about this energy, what I said the other day, existing inside of the person. One, you might have issues letting go, and the other, you might have issues making decisions. But this has nothing to do with your biological sex. You can be a woman with strong masculine energy. I know John is going to agree, because isn't this the contention that the women have strong masculine energy? As you can be a man with strong feminine energy. Is this a fact or a fiction? Are we seeing this? Is this a legitimate observation? Today, you're going to discover your energy strength and learn how to balance the masculine and feminine within you so that you can live your life to the fullest. You know, actually, the Bible brings up a portion where it says, the tender among you, when it's speaking of the male. Let me pull it up. And so there's an understanding that not every man has the same level of masculinity within him, right? Some are hyper masculine, some are more docile, some are more laid back. It really depends. Now, in today's space and time, it goes beyond, right? It goes beyond, and people take it to another level. I have to pull it up. Let me stay on track so I don't go off track here. Let me check the chat and see if anybody agrees or disagrees thus far before we get into a little bit more. I know some people agree because, like I said before, this is the contention. Having a balance of masculine and feminine energy makes you a winner in love and life. This is what the person is saying. When people describe their ideal partner, most of the time they describe someone who has both energies. If a man just had a woman who was indecisive, could never make up her mind, she never knows what she wants to eat, she never knows what she wants to wear, even though this is classified as being overly feminine and overly dependent, what do you think? How do I look? Eventually, he will become annoyed with her because she never knows what she wants and she's never able to make a decision and stick to it. So I'd be inclined to agree that when we look for other people, if they have an excess amount of energy within them, that becomes an issue because they make us now in balance, right? A woman might describe the ideal man as someone who's strong and ambitious, yet kind and sensitive. That's two different things going on. And a man might describe the ideal woman as sexy and playful, yet confident and independent. Again, one of the issues, even back in the day with the housewives, and you read some of these manuals, their whole life depended on, they didn't have access to the outside world. So they only got to interface with society through the male, which became too much, because now, when he comes home from the outside and he's poop, you want to stop him, you want to talk to him, you want to talk about the neighbor and this person and that person. And so for him it becomes too much, because he's kind of like her avatar, right? This is how she interfaces. So that didn't work. For people who keep talking about go back, why don't we should all go back and see whether or not it worked. Did it work? If it didn't work, why? What were some of the problems that came about during that time in society? Because it's not that far long ago. Anyway, um, this kind of balance can only be reached through understanding your own energy, strength, and working on incorporating characteristics of the opposite energy into you, meaning balancing yourself. Societal pressure. From the moment we are born, we pick up messages from our family and society about how we should behave, right? There's social programming. Boys and girls are being treated differently. Boys are spoken to and hugged much less than girls. Boys are encouraged to express more masculine energy, which might come naturally or it might not. A sensitive boy might get laughed at for wanting to play with girls or wanting to do activities that are perceived as feminine. Oh, you're acting like a girl. Why are you crying? Get up and go do. He may not be interested in that, but again, society is saying, you know, you throw like a girl, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it really depends on what society, because some places, quote, is thought cooking is for girls. In other places, cooking is a life skill and everyone needs to learn. In some places, washing your clothes, if you have to wash it by hand, is for girls. In other places, everybody needs to learn. So it really depends on what culture you're coming up in. Boys are encouraged to express more masculine energy. Okay, I read that. Similarly, girls are encouraged to express more of the feminine energy. They're being told early on that running around and playing rough with the boys isn't what they should be doing. Instead, they should be gentle and caring. They should play with dolls and talk to other girls. How many people can identify with this? Is this fact or is this fiction? Um, John says, and when a woman don't know what they want to eat, you just described why feminine women want masculine leadership. Women that are feminine hate making decisions when she has a man. Okay, so you agree, John? You agreeing that, what if this is always the case? What if you had a woman who never knew what she wanted to eat, never could make up her mind, never knew what shoes to wear, never knew what she wanted to do. She always depended on you. Is that the optimal type of woman that males should be looking for? Let us know. Let us know how that one would work. Let me continue here. What's your strength? So again, now it's going to get a little personal, people, because this is where the real change happens. Your strength is your dominant energy. Wait, let me go back a little bit to um, how we talk to our children, and kind of sear or cut off parts of them that need to develop, right? Because we may fear or we may preempt their emotions and where they might ultimately end up. It can be a issue if your son is more sensitive, and instead of working him through that space so that he can learn to take responsibility for his emotions and what he's feeling and take charge in a different way, you cut him off and say, stop being a girl, stop, acting like a pa, right? And not realizing that potentially you can be doing more harm than good. Did this happen to you? Did you do it to yours? Did you see it happening? What was the effects of it? There was a man I remember years ago, he used to come on a session I used to have, and he talked about how he liked to be inside and do music and play his piano, and how his father berated him for not being the masculine boy, and it turned him, and his father was there. That's why I said everybody keeps talking about if you have two parents. It really depends on the health of the two parents or in the household. So essentially, after years of this this father disparaging this young boy, he goes wayward. He jumped off all the rails and gets lost out in the world for a very long time. So A, his father was there. B, they didn't deal with his interests and kind of guide him in the right way correctly. And it actually ruined his life. And that's just one story, but I'm quite sure there are many. So it is with girls who may have a different energy that they need to kind of taper off, right? And the thought is that you can't do this, this, and this, and then that pushes them to do it more, or it pushes them to act like they can't do anything, and they have to wait totally on the man to make any choices in their life. Let's see here. Let's go back. John says, of course, the men tell him, do not act like a woman because we are designed for different things based on biology. Men have to know how to fight so we can protect. Yeah, I mean, I must have missed when you first wrote it, so I'm going to let me go back up. I think I missed some. Women don't know. No, I already wrote that. Yeah, there's a way in which, especially when the plant is young, meaning the soul is young, there's a way in which you redirect someone because you may actually be doing more harm than good. And everybody didn't fight. There's a part in the Torah where they're going to go to war, and they say, well, if you are afraid, if you don't want to go, if you got something back at your house, just go back home. You know what I'm saying? Just go back home now. Don't come out here with the cowardly spirit. So even though men are taught to fight, there's some men who don't like fighting. Let's be honest. There's some men who will walk off and leave the woman standing there, right? Because he refuses to fight. So yes, men are supposed to protect, but not everybody's built like that. Queen Nzinga says it didn't work because man's uncontrolled warlike nature took Western culture into a war. And during wartime in the 30s and 40s, the men were gone, and so women had to work to feed their family. We will come back and talk about that. Because that's a whole study. Everybody keeps bringing up feminism and this, that. That's a whole study right there. In that case, she's dysfunctional. Successful children need mothers with leadership skills. And that is true, Nyasha. Successful children need to see the feminine principle operating in confidence in her jurisdiction and the masculine principle operating with confidence in his jurisdiction. Men and women both have different jurisdictions, right? I think sometimes we like the man is ruling everything. No, she it says that they will together. They are supposed to be doing what needs to be done, and there are parts of her jurisdiction that she needs to rule with confidence. Because if she does not, it's a weakened state. So there's strength in different ways. Everybody's strength is not exhibited the same, but there is strength. The thought is that you have to polarize. One is strong and the other one is weak. So the man is physically strong, the woman is physically weak. But okay, so is it fair to say the woman is emotionally strong and the man is emotionally weak? Right? Internally, if externally and masculine, he's outward show of strength, she has an inward show of strength. So is it fair an assessment to say the man is emotionally weaker than the woman? Let me know. What good would she be for herself or her family if she could never make a decision? That's the question we must ask. I'm with you on that one. If she can never make a decision, nothing is going to move forward. That's like having somebody, you go out in your position within the company and nothing moves until you come back. It's like, well, why are you here? Why are you here if you can't do what needs to be done? What should we do today? Everything you have to, you're unsure. That means you're not confident in your position, and you might need to have a conversation about that. Oh, really? Really, John? Well, we're gonna have to ask some of the women who done got ran off on. He says men like it when women put responsibility on a man's shoulders. Women change their mind about things they want all the time, depending on what emotions y'all feel. That's fascinating. I don't know about that because there's a lot of men who don't like it when women put responsibility on their shoulders. They say stuff like she's trying to pin a baby on me. I'm like, that's interesting. You pinned the tail on the donkey. How you pinned the baby on the man? What was you doing there in a position not to be the husband for her to be pinning this baby on you? Queen Nzinga says feminine women want emotional balance, kind, learned, spiritual, and wise men to be the head of the house. And if he has those qualities, he can be trusted to lead. Sounds like she's looking for a balance. Which is why women, this is John, love variety of options in most things, colors, scents, and perfumes. This generation is the only one that literally calls men losers for being men. Um, no, I think there's a difference between being a man and being toxic. There's definitely a difference. And this is what we are trying to get to understand. What are we calling being a man and what are we calling toxic? If we can identify those two things, it might work. What's going on here? It makes me laugh when John calls me ma'am, ma'am. I'm sorry, that's funny to me. He said, ma'am. Men that are not willing to die for their family during danger are never going to be respected among men or society or history and will be called cowards as they should. No men channel their emotion into something productive, not whine and cry. Well, John, I don't know. I don't know, John. I don't know. I mean, in theory, that sounds good, but we hearing a lot of crying and whining today. I mean, just in general. And there's a lot of men who will just duck down like that scene from New Jack City when Wesley Snipes used the little girl as his shield, and who will have and continue to do what you say real men don't do. And I agree, there's definitely a difference between toxic and real men, and we need to define that. What does it mean to be a real man, and what does it mean to be a toxic man? Because right now people just throwing labels, sticking them on people, and people are being reactionary, and we're not getting to the bottom of the conversation. So let's go back to our article. That was a good little bill. Let's go back to the article before these mosquitoes come out on me. Societal pressure. Okay, I already read that. Let's go back. Okay, so what's your strength? According to this article, your strength is your dominant energy, which is a strength when used wisely. There are four types of people, according to this article: feminine strength female, I guess that's the alpha female; feminine strength male, I guess that's what people are calling the beta male; masculine strength female. Wait, no, wait. Feminine strength female, I guess this is the wife material. What do they call it now? High value? I'm not sure. But feminine strength, I read that wrong, my bad. Masculine strength female, which is what they will be calling the angry woman, the alpha woman, I suppose, not sure. And the masculine strength male. So that's the man's man or the alpha male. So, I mean, I don't see anything too alarming about this list. The woman who has dominant feminine energy, the male who has too much feminine energy, the woman who has too much masculine energy, and the man who has masculine energy. Because if it's a female and she has masculine strength, then it would be said that she has too much masculine energy. Okay. So two of these are supposed to be correct and exact, and one of these are off. So the masculine strength male and the feminine strength female is how we want it to be. And I guess the wounded or the part that's off is the masculine strength male and the feminine strength male. Sorry, masculine strength female. Okay, let me know if you're. I'm working through it with you guys too. So let me know if you got that or we need to go over that part again. If you disagree with these four types of people, let me know if you agree with these. Let me. And this is part. You see, we're focused here. We're focused on what's on the screen. We're collectively coming to conversation. And why our conversation oftentimes gets stalled is because we're not paying attention. We have 4 types according to them. If somebody would like to type it in the chat, that would be awesome. And let me know if this part right here is correct, or do you contest it? What I'm hearing a lot today on all over the internet is people are saying, men are saying that the women are masculine, and women are saying that the men are feminine. And basically, that's what I'm getting from this list if you have these different types. So, how to identify your dominant or strength energy. This was interesting. I just perused it a little bit before I came on. I'm definitely going to do some more reading, but just humor the site. Flatten out your right hand and look at your fingers. So I'm doing that right now. Okay. Which is longer, your index finger next to your thumb or your ring finger next to your little finger? Oh, okay, wait. The index finger or your ring finger. Okay, guys, which one is longer? Masculine strength people tend to have the ring finger longer than their index finger. People with feminine strength energy tend to have the 2 fingers the same length, or they have the index finger longer. And according to them, and I have to look this up, so they're giving you the little tutorial of how it looks. If the pointer finger is longer, they say that's feminine, and if the masculine is taller, I mean the ring, they say that's masculine. And according to her, she says science explains that the more testosterone you are exposed to in the womb, the longer your ring finger will be. I'm going to click that link. The index finger, on the other hand, indicates the estrogen levels of a person. I don't know. While the test is very effective in indicating a person's strength energy, it isn't 100% accurate. There are always some exceptions. So let me click on this. Oh wow! Let's take a look real quick, shall we? You guys know I like hopping over. Let me change the screen so you guys can see this. They quoted a science article. You don't know about the ring finger thing. That's what I'm saying. We about to go over there right now. Oh no, the rain is coming down. Oh no, I'm outside. Wait, let me stop that screen and let's get the article. Usually a good site is going to give you their reference, where they got this from. So we're going to go to where they got it from. So it took us to ScienceDaily.com. And this was from 2011 from University of Florida. Why men's ring fingers are longer than their index fingers. Male, female ring finger proportions tied to sex hormones in embryo. The summary, providing a genetic explanation for a raft of studies that link finger proportions with traits ranging from sperm counts and music ability to health problems such as autism, depression, and heart attack. Researchers have found that male and female digit proportions are determined by the balance of sex hormones during early embryonic development. And I'll put this link so that you can look more. And it says biologists at the University of Florida, that's UF in Gainesville, found a reason why men's ring fingers are generally longer than their index fingers, and why the reverse usually holds true for women. So the article didn't pull it out there behind. Now I'm put this in the box. Read it and tell me what you guys come up with. We're going to keep going forward here for the sake of time. For the sake of time. Here's the ring thing. Here's the ring thing. This is the article, and this is also the article that I'm reading from if you want to go back and read at your own discretion. So far, I haven't seen anything that I like, oh my goodness, I object. You know what I mean? So far, so good. What's this here? That's a long link. My apologies. That's a real long link. Okay, let's see. So let me go back to sharing my screen. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Let me go back. Take me back. Okay. Okay. So we got some more research to do on the ring finger thing. So sex drive test. A great way to discover your dominant energy is examining your sex drive. Remember, they're going through this to see, are you more in your masculine energy or feminine energy, even if you're male or female. Masculine strength males have a very strong sex drive. However, this is not the case with a masculine strength female. She has other priorities and she's too busy getting stuff done. Feminine strength female has a high sex drive. To her, sex is the time to express her love and herself. Feminine strength male, on the other hand, prioritize intimacy connection over sex. So they just gave you little things that are for you to know within your own space, because you know your life, which one is you. Now, masculine strength energy versus feminine strength. I think this should be good, huh? The bird thinks so. Masculine energy, logical, makes its choices based on rational and analytical thoughts. Feminine energy, emotional, it is kind, loving, empathetic, and nurturing. Have we heard men are logical, women are emotional? Have we heard that? Have we heard emotion being pitted against logic? We've heard that, right? We've heard logic being pitted against emotion, emotion being pitted against logic, and we've also heard, wow, that was a long link. We've also heard, for this reason, women are not fit, X, Y, and Z, right? Because this is the male female argument. But you have some very emotional males and you have some very logical females. So to broad brush them is where we begin to have issues, right? Confident. It takes action and takes responsibility. It is powerful, sometimes controlling, assertive, and decisive. This is masculine energy. And this can be present in the career woman who, some are saying, choose to go out in corporate America. I think someone said it yesterday, and becomes more, I think it was actually John who said it, and becomes more dominating in this area. If she's in masculine energy, some will say she's going to move in this way. If he's in masculine energy, it's acceptable. If she's in this space, it's not, oftentimes. Feminine energy, intuitive, is creative and sensitive. What's interesting is that musicians often, hey, a red robin came to see me. He flew right on my door. Oh, I'm sorry. Feminine energy is intuitive and creative and sensitive, but musicians, in order for them to bring their craft and art, a lot of musicians move in their feminine energy because they have access to this creative side. And a lot of the things they're doing is not through logic. And how did you know to play that? How did you know to paint that? How did you know to sing that? They were tuned in to their feminine energy. No? Yes? No? Masculine, competitive. It is disciplined, determined, and goal oriented. It is ambitious, but can be impatient, judgmental, and jealous. The Olympics are coming around, and you see men and women on the track. So is it fair to say that the women athletes are in masculine energy because they're competitive, disciplined, and determined to win the goal? These are all like real life experiences that we see before us. Would that person be considered to be in their masculine energy because they're in this competition, like one of the biggest competitions, which is the Olympics? Free spirited. It lives in the moment and is spontaneous. It can be unpredictable, unreliable, and disorganized. It is usually not good with managing their finances. So you can have free spirited men. You can have free spirited women. Agree so far. Strong. I have two more sets and then we'll see if we agree, disagree. Where do we agree or disagree at? Strong in the masculine energy is strong physically and reliable emotionally. Feminine energy, expressive. It connects easily with others. It communicates freely and easily. Masculine, independent. It seeks freedom. It can be rebellious and dislike authority. It can struggle to connect with others and express their feelings. And feminine, open. It is cooperative and trusting. Its values in others, and it's patient, but it can be naive. Again, these characteristics can exist within the male or the female. So far, nothing alarming for me. It's stuff that I've seen and heard. Oh no, wait a minute. Oh, come back. Where did my screen go? Hold on, everyone. Nothing alarming for me thus far. Let's see. I think, yep, food should be taken into consideration. Also, the way society has moved by way of capitalism in this country has forced the entire family, including children, to go out into. If we want to be honest, before industrialization, children were forced to go out in in the workforce. Like, people were having a lot of children so that they can work on the farm. Like, they had to have whole child labor laws in this country and other places because people were putting underage children to work. So to be fair, it has always been a level of expecting children to go out and earn their keep. You know what I mean? It's just in different ways in this space and time. But before, it was unregulated. You know what I mean? It was on some old sending the little children into the factory. I think I was reading one of the enslavement books, and the who was it? He was young, and he sent him into the cigar factory with the leaves and hanging them out and doing. I think it was, if it was Henry Box Brown. I think it was the story of Henry Box Brown. But yeah, children have always been sent out into spaces that were adult spaces, um, to help. Mm, I think they can be both character traits, though. Uh, I'm sorry if I'm reading stuff out of thing. Hey, what is wrong with John? Ma'am, masculine women today are rarely raised as feminine and choose. Before we could get to the women today, are you in agreement with what? Here comes the mosquitoes. Are you in agreement with so far what the article is? Before we get to what's wrong, let's just see if this is a right account of what exists in us, right? It's like to say, how do you know? You go to the doctor, you have to know what something looks like when it's working so that you know when to go to the doctor. So what I'm trying to do is see if we can get a consensus amongst us about this working definition of masculine and feminine energy. That would help. A working definition would help, because everything else is just throwing us off the mark if we go, chasing all of the symptoms and not looking at the core issue of what it's supposed to be, and then we can get to what it's not. It's like somebody saying, let me take your blood pressure, and then if you don't know what your blood pressure is supposed to be, when they take your blood pressure, you're not alarmed if they give you some wild crazy number. If you don't know you're supposed to have around 98.7 temperature and they say, hey, your temperature is 105, if you don't know what your temperature is supposed to be, you're not alarmed. So we kind of need a baseline is what I'm saying. We kind of need a baseline so that we're not just running around the place being triggered by feminism and all of these things. Feminism is a response. I've said that before. I'll say it again. And anybody who's willing to come on up and talk about it. It was a response. That's what we need to understand. A lot of times I hear a lot of men and women arguing about feminism and not realizing it's a response. It's like something happens within your body. If there's a fever and a temperature in your body, a fever in your body or some foreign substance, your body's response is to send the temperature up. It gives you a fever. It's a defense mechanism. So feminism, it was a response. It was birthed out of something. It was conceived from something. What was happening? And the reality is the feminine principle was being stifled. A lot of people don't want to admit that. We want to go straight to look at what they did to me. No, what were you doing? What were you doing for this to be the response? It's like, oh, the slaves ran away. From what? Oppression? What were you doing for them to run away? And so when we point off down the road and look like, there he go get him, we don't have to talk about how you were oppressing, exploiting, stealing, robbing, doing maiming, doing all of these things. And the response to that was, I want my freedom because I didn't agree to what it is that you're doing. So I assert that feminism is a response. And if we're going to have a honest intellectual discussion about it, it helps to give it context. What was happening? What is going on? Feminism is coming. The beginning of it, she has no rights. She cannot own land. She's not an act. She cannot vote. Her voice is not heard. There's a lot of things going on that a whole human being was going to say, you know what? Yeah, this is not working for me. I'm going to have to start protesting. You know what I mean? And I like to throw this in people's tank. Feminism, the first wave, the early feminism, the first feminists were also abolitionists. So these same feminists that everybody keeps talking about, their great granny, they were fighting for the abolition of slavery. So without a lot of the early feminist movement, the abolitionist movement wouldn't have been pushed forward the way in which it was, because the history is interconnected. But we don't want to have that conversation. Okay, Queen Nzinga says, I think the chart is made up and not quite accurate in looking at the behavior of both sexes. I don't think the chart is about sexes. I think it's a, I mean, it goes into sexes. It's about energy. It's about the principle of the way something moves before it can be embodied into the essence of the thing, right? So I think for me it has validity, but we can continue to talk about what parts may be inaccurate. I mean, there's a lot of charts and a lot of things come from observation, right? So once we like what we're doing now, look at somebody, bring up something, make up something, look at something, and then we can look at it and see, you know what, is this right or is this wrong? Okay, let's put John here. John wants to talk about feminism. You know what, John? We're gonna come and talk about feminism after, because you want to talk about feminism, but we're talking about masculine and feminine energy, healthy masculine and feminine energy. Misconceptions. Feminine energy is not weak. We live in a world that celebrated the masculine energy above all else. The word feminine is often being associated with weakness. Is that true? I even said it earlier just now. Is feminine being associated with weakness? If you're a successful, career driven woman, you might perceive it as sexism. If you're a guy, you might believe that it makes you less of a man and feel like running away from it. Masculine energy doesn't make you, okay, I'm not going to say that. At the same time, some men believe that it's no longer socially acceptable to own their masculine energy. They believe that it makes them aggressive and that these days men should show up some sensitivity. Is that what's being complained about? Being a masculine, strength male or female doesn't mean that you're destined to be aggressive or cut off from your feelings. You can still be kind and loving. In other words, you can use feminine energy without walking away from your natural strength that is allowing you to be ambitious and work hard to reach your goals. This part is true. We are living in, and I think John just spoke to it, in a space where everything is perceived as hyper masculinity and toxicity, where you can't. But then it's a fine line. Where is the line? Who's drawing the line? Um, is it a line across the board, or does it depend? Because we're talking about relationships. We're talking about relationships, and we have to first know ourselves. If we can't relate to ourselves, how can we relate to anyone else? And that's part of the problem, in my estimation, in relationships. We can't even sit with our own selves and be honest about where we are and what's going on within us, that when we get into these relationships, they don't work, they break down, because we don't have the proper working tools to make them work. Yeah, people do mellow out as they get older. Some do. Yep, I agree with that. Okay, no, being feminine doesn't make women weak. It makes women powerful. Now, masculine women, on the other hand, see feminine women as weak, which is when she sees a woman that is led by her man. So, okay, I've heard this before, right? So let's go into that part. Let's take a pause on the article. What in life experience would lead the woman to believe that feminine energy is weak? Because she wasn't just born and pop out with this thought process. It's the article spoke about it earlier. There are things within society and culture that lead women to believe that feminine energy is weak. And namely, it's feminine energy versus masculine energy, or the female versus the male. So if you say to the young boy, you throw like a girl, the thought process is that throwing like that's inferior, right? That the woman is inferior to the man, and if you do anything like her, that means it's lesser than. So she didn't just come up with this idea that feminine energy is weak. Society told her that it means that you're weak. Now, there's strength in being feminine, but if you're in a space where it's not reverenced or respected, then now it does become a weakness. So basically, it wasn't protected, it's abuse. For instance, if the man is trying to curse the woman or curse another man, what does he say? You're acting like, and he makes reference to the female genitalia. What is that doing? That's showing, you know what I'm saying? So that's highlighting the weakness of femininity. And so some women in today's space and time say, I don't want to be that then, because that will mean that I will be hurt. Because if something is weak and can't defend themselves, then they're vulnerable and they can be hurt. They can be broken and they can be manipulated. And who wants that? So there's a lot of what, and I'm put the link in the box. Let me see if I want to go on. I'm put the link in the box. Feminism was more than that. And if anybody want to come up and have a whole, I don't really like debating, but we can engage in this feminism uh, conversation that just keeps getting repeated without real context. We can do that. We can have the conversation on what it really was and what it became. But I like the beginnings. So what was it in the beginning? John over here quoting Shahrazad Ali. Yeah, you trying to give me an extra gray hair today, John. Mm. Masculine women view marriage as slavery and cleaning as servitude. I'm over here thinking. I'm gonna put the link in the back. Um, there are many play. She again. That's not something she just. You know what, John? Let me ask you something. Or how many trips have you made, or if you haven't been able to go into other spaces and societies, how many documentaries looking into the cultures of other places have you taken the time to look at to see whether or not even the feminine women, you keep saying masculine women, that's just here, you have feminine women who are not in masculine energy in other cultures, who are well aware that they're often treated like slaves in the home, right? And if they had another chance and another option, they would take it ASAP, post haste. Are you aware of that? That thought that only masculine women see it? No. If you are working at a job that you do not get paid for, and there's nothing but expectations of you, and you're asked to do all of this self-sacrificing, and you're not getting compensated in a way that you can take that compensation and interface with the outside world, one would say that that's akin to slavery. Depends on who the man is. So it's not just like masculine women see that. If you look around the world, many women, many women see that. We I'm gonna open up the line. Wow, we almost at an hour. I'm gonna pause right here. We stopping at how do you express yourself, and we're expressing ourselves now. Let me go ahead and drop the link in the box. I've watched a lot of documentaries, visited a few other places. It's not just masculine women. It is, you can do it without complaint and still think that um, you can do better with your life. I'm not saying that taking care of your home is not important. It's very important. I would never say that. But there's some people and there's some cultures that does enslave the female, and she has this job that is thankless, right? She has this job that she doesn't get compensated. She's basically a work for hire. Because if anything ever happens to the male, or if he was poor, if he didn't have any agency in society, she has nothing to fall back on. So she was basically day laborers. This is the reality of many people. You know, when you show up is when you get paid. So she shows up, she has somewhere to live, and she has a family. If anything happens to the man, she's a widow and she has nothing. So I think if we step back from the picture from just man and woman and look at it from both sides, it will help to um, understand what we're experiencing. So we have Queen and Zing. Let me add you and Nasha in the spot. The link is in the box. And here we are. Welcome to the conversation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sis. Good evening. Welcome. What I know this one is stirring it up. Let me know, like Bob Marley, stir it up. What are your thoughts? Little darling. Go ahead.
Yes, I am a little bit, confused how me and John we live in two different realities, I think, completely.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, and I find it very interesting that two people can be so disconnected. It's very interesting because,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that Mama Imuna, I think we do not understand our function of our brain in the society we are living in. And and I understand what John is saying because I do see women who are in this powerful position. And when they get there, they start abusing other women. But why are they doing this? We live in a system of patriarchy. They want to get to the resources. And if I get
Mhm.
to the resources, I want
Mm.
to have it for myself. So they start abusing other women. And
Mhm.
it is
Mm.
understandable. And somehow, it is so clear for me. Even, when you talk about women who want to clean because marriage is slavery. In my culture, a woman marries a man, she bears him children. If he doesn't want you anymore, you are gone. He takes the children. And those women
Mm.
are enslaved. That's why a lot of women, when they um when they go to Western like England or America, they divorce their husbands
Mhm.
immediately. A lot of Arabic families who come here to Germany, they divorce their husband immediately.
Mm.
Immediately, they're gone.
Wow.
So that's all I wanted to say. That it's so interesting how I think this is the way I'm feeling. I don't want to judge. He cannot see it. That's just what I take on it. Yes, thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much for that. And that's what hopefully these conversations, I like facilitating conversations that we are hearing, looking at different perspectives, that we can broaden our scope and actually hopefully see it from where someone else is coming from. Or I like to think that we all have these pieces to the puzzle that we put on the table, right? And when we put our pieces together, then we can understand what we're looking at. Um, so hopefully this helps us to uh, consider, if nothing else, in our quiet time, in our spaces, after we have the knee jerk reactions to what the other person is saying. Because I see the point he's coming from, but it's only one. That's why I say it's only coming from one direction. Like what Shahrazad has said or what this person has said. And the problem is generalizing it and putting it across the board. When you go to another place, you're speaking for someone that you didn't ask them. Is that what they feel? Like what you're saying, right? You didn't ask, you didn't, did you observe what happens in their culture? What they really think about marriage? Why they're really being docile? And if they had the opportunity, what would they really do? But go ahead. Oh, Queen Azinga, go, we can't hear you.
Oh, you were speaking to me. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I paused for a second. I was going to give John a breather before I read his comment. So you could go ahead.
Okay. I think what we're missing here, I think there are a couple of things that are missing here. In the description of the real topic here is the energy of male and female is what you started out with. And I think that there are some things that we need to consider about masculine and feminine energy, um, that seem to be reversed in this generation, but also not really quite defined in a healthy way in the past, which is why you have this pushback from a lot of women. Um, the way that the world is right now, I think we've got a lot of things that have changed the minds of society. Number one is money. Um, Having money, and how you're going to get that money, and how you have to be in order to get that money. And so a lot of people, in my opinion, have become very aggressive. And so because people have become aggressive as a culture, it can appear that a woman would be masculine in this sense of the word. But, today's men are also not in their traditional roles because, they were supposed to be builders. A lot of men are not building anything. A lot of this generation is on the internet, and so many of them do not have skills that build up the entire society. And now when you look at the traditional roles of women, the cooking, the cleaning, or what they believe are traditional roles of the woman in terms of her being in the household, those are paid positions. People actually go to work to be a chef. People get paid to clean homes. They're called maids. Um, People get paid to take care of children. They're called babysitters. Um, People get paid to teach children. They're called teachers. So those are 4 different jobs that people get paid for. And so a woman in the household is doing 4 different jobs and more in a
And
household.
more. And more. She the counselor.
and
She the
and more. And being a woman in a household like that, in a traditional sense, she's not getting paid for it. She's not getting paid for it. So when a man comes into the house, the question for that kind of woman is, what do you do? What do you do? You go out to work every day? Yeah, but what else do you do? What would you be doing if you didn't go to work?
question. Question.
I mean,
Are you building
working.
in the back? Are you
Work.
fixing cars?
Are you
You know.
fixing things? You don't have a lot of these men, younger men today. They don't have any skills. They know how to rap. They know how to play ball. They know how to do Xbox. They know how to get on the internet. They know how to do all of that. But that is not building society. We need buildings. They don't have those kinds of skills.
I must
Now
say I do know
other
a few
now
brothers. I
now
know a few
other
brothers who do.
now yeah, a few brothers, but a lot of these skills are being
Yeah, a
outsourced
few brothers.
to a lot of these skills are being outsourced to quote unquote immigrants right now.
That's true.
I'm looking around, in the neighborhood that I'm in. A lot of these buildings are going up very quickly, and most of the and no offense to anybody, but a lot of the people who are doing the building are Latino.
That's true.
in particular from South American countries.
That's also true.
So I'm wondering where all the black men are building with these skills, doing the electrical engineering for the buildings, having those skills. And true, maybe some of them have been shut out because of whatever reason. But these are the things that men are traditionally supposed to do while women are in the homes, cleaning the house, cooking the food, teaching the children. Where's the balance when you come home? What have you done all day?
Question.
I yield the floor.
Hold on 1 second. I have to plug in my computer. I was over here taking some fresh air, but this joint is about to is about to go off if I don't plug it in. So hold on 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
You bring up a point, and I think in the same way that home ec was taken out of the school system, so was shop class, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all of these things that used to be priority have now become something that the advanced nation leaves that sweat work to the other demographic of people who are coming in. Right now, a lot of males are in air condition, not trying to be funny, with manicured nails, who refuse to sweat and think that sweat is actually beneath them,
Yes.
right? Sweating is something that, um, and so it's something that is lowly. So in the same way they're disparaging women who think cleaning and cooking is lowly, she's matched by the male who thinks working is lowly, having dirty
Yes.
hands is lowly,
Yes.
roofing is lowly, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Gardening is lowly. It's
Yes.
so she didn't just step away from these things by herself. You went with her. And
Yes.
both of you guys are on the couch looking at each other, ordering Grubhub,
Yeah.
asking what are we going to eat tonight?
That part.
Right? So yeah, so let's be honest about where this
But but
conversation has
but
gone.
but we're looking at men in today's culture. We're looking at men like Kevin Samuels as examples. He's telling other men how to be men. When you're what do, my dude? You're styling people? Really? Come on now.
She say you're styling.
You're picking out
That's
clothes
funny.
for people to wear. Really? You're not a designer. You're not a designer. I don't understand it. Why would any man follow his talking points? Why would any group of men who call themselves masculine take on these traits? What are the traits of men? You want to talk about a woman being feminine. What is your masculine? What is your masculine?
And that is what the conversation. John, give us a list. Can I just have 5 things on the list, or any of the males or females who are here to give us some things? Because I'm actionary, right? I like, things that I can look at, think about, move through. What are some of the traits that are masculine, right? There are lists up here.
And
Again,
don't tell me playing basketball and baseball. You know, pitching like a girl. Like that's the stupidest. Like let's move past that.
what are some of the things that are innately, again, what's it? Yeah, let's get some things on the list. Let's get a working list here. Again, it may be different for different people. One of the first occupations, according to the Torah, for men, was guarding. He was supposed to guard and to keep the garden, right?
Yes.
It
Yes.
takes it takes strength and it takes gentleness to be a farmer. You
Yes.
have to know when to
And
use which.
intuition. And
It takes
intuition.
intuition to be a farmer.
And to be an observer
It, it, it,
of
it
the
takes patience
environment.
to be a farmer.
You
It
got to
takes
be an
wisdom.
observer of the environment and
That's correct.
wisdom.
You have to know when to plant. You have to know when to till the ground. You have to be in sync with nature, which, right, to know when to do what and for how long.
And
Well,
that and
mhm.
that and that in and of itself is where I say men can have the balance between the two, because women garden as well.
That's correct.
Some people say that gardening is for women, but no, like you just stated, in the Bible, in the Torah, in the beginning, the first job that man was given by God was to take care of the earth.
Correct.
That was his job. And then came woman to go alongside of him, not walk 10 paces behind him, but to be his rib, which is his side, to be beside him. And I think that our cultures have lost the concept of co-regency.
Thi-
Co-regency back in the days of when we were rulers before Caucasian colonization, we were noblemen, craftsmen. We were all of those people. Not everybody was king and queen. No, that's not the truth. You had people who were craftsmen, artisans, scientists, medical people, those kinds of people who were all working. They all had positions, and they understood by what was written by God that their woman, their female counterpart, is with them to help them, to be a help meet, not to be above, not to be beneath. And this is where it gets into toxic territory, is when you disrespect the position of the female who is supposed to be right next to you, helping you, and you helping her.
All right now. It looked like, and that's true. John looked like he went somewhere to go get his list, so he said give him a second. We have Sadia on the line.
And please don't come back with manosphere talking points.
He went to
Original
go get his
thoughts,
list.
original thoughts, please.
Queen of Singa, leave that man alone. He went to go get his list. He said he coming back. So
Critical
Daika, what
thinking,
happened?
please.
Uh-oh. Amuna, what? Pull up a video. Better than me. I'm learning from him. Look up the business. Why toxic masculinity is great. Oh boy, I have to preview this stuff. Y'all know at least I gotta preview a little bit. If somebody says why toxic masculinity is great, that already sounds like it's toxic.
Oh, please. I mean, you're boring. You're boring.
Oh gosh, let's be nice. Let's be respectful. We got a sister on the line. What's going on, Sadaika? What's going on?
Hey, Shalom.
What's
Um,
shalom, sis?
I
Good
just find it
evening.
good evening to everyone. I just find it really interesting that it for those who do read Torah, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what how like swordsman always said in y'all other shows. We got to bring it back to scripture. If though
Right.
for those who do read Torah, in Genesis, the first chapter, 26 to 28, when God, I'm going to use God so that
Mm,
everybody understands what I'm saying, says, let us make man in our image, mankind in our image, and he created male and female. So if mankind was made in his image, male and female, so that means that the father has a positive, a female and a male energy,
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and everything he's
Yes.
created has a
That's it. That's
female
correct.
and a
Yes.
male energy.
That's correct.
Yes.
Because whatever he's created that's in himself, everything that we see is things that he's created that came from him.
Yes. And everything on the earth is male and female. And
Everything.
everything has X and Y chromosomes, which means male and female chromosomes, if you want to go to science.
So I don't know if anyone's seen my post. If you seen my post, I'm a Koti Elder Mona. When I posted, I said I find it funny that women, her character is tied into whether she could cook or clean, whether she's a good woman or not. Can she cook or clean? But when I was growing up, my father used to fix my mother's washing machine. She didn't call anybody. He
Yes.
fixed it. He would fix
Yes.
his own car. He would go
Yes.
into white neighborhoods and find used TVs that they didn't want anymore, and we would pray that he picked up a color TV. And he would take those he would take those TVs apart, put them back
Mm-hmm.
together, and get them to work. We never bought a television,
Look
never.
at that. Look at that.
And so
See,
when I
that's
met my
something I
ex husband,
respect.
when I
Yes.
met my ex-husband, the first I said, "Can you fix my car for me?" He's like, "I don't do things like that." He's like, "So what you going to cook? You can't cook?" "Yeah, I can cook. But can you build something for me? I bought some tools. Are you going to be able to use those tools?" "No." "Why you think men supposed to do that?" I said, "Because I seen my father do those things. Just like you
Yes.
seen your mother and what she did, she cooked and she cleaned. I'm expecting you to do some of the things that my father did.
Hmm.
Yes.
So why am I a bad person if I don't know how to cook and clean, which I do, and you're not such a bad person, and you don't tie your masculinity into the fact that you cannot build anything for me, you cannot
Yes.
fix my car, you can't even take hell, you can't even take my car to the place to get fixed.
Oh,
Yes.
You
wow.
don't know nothing. So now I have to
Fixed by
depend on
other men. Fixed
right.
by other men who can fix it.
Exactly. So this tug of war between male and feminine energy is truly unnecessary because the father created male for his purpose, and also male has feminine and within him, and he
Yes.
created female for her purpose, and she has masculine within her. So when
Yes.
one does not operate in their function, the other one takes over, and that's how the creator created it, so that we
Yes.
balance each other out no matter what.
Yes. Balance.
And that is what, sorry about that. That is what we're, thank you for that, sis. That's exactly where we're trying to get to in this conversation. Sometimes it takes
Yes.
us a little time. We need real life examples of what the contention is, right? The expectation, like you're saying, there's expectation on one side, but not delivery on the other. And that
Yes.
delivery has been replaced with monetary value. If the man is a high value man, if the man has money, then that replaces his knowledge base. That replaces his ability to do these things. And it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It doesn't fully replace how secure you feel, because if he doesn't have access to the shop, if he doesn't have access to whatever, can he still do those things? If the light goes off, the hurricane comes, right? And you're stuck and you can't go out to the neighborhood, wherever, will he be able to help you to survive
Yes.
if
I
his money is no longer any good? Right?
And my father, my father was military, and he, a lot of what I learned from him was emergency skills.
Right.
Emergency skills, how to protect the house. Yes, I do know how to shoot if necessary, but he was a master gardener. We had a farm, 7 acres of farmland, and my father worked the farm after he retired from this country. He went back and started farming. He was able to we had a boat at one point. He was driving boats. I mean, he did everything. There wasn't anything that my father couldn't do.
So
And when
are
and
we
when I
looking for
and
too much?
when I look at
I think we are.
and when
I
I
think
lo-
we are, because when you ask for those things, you get an instant attitude, or you get
well,
angry.
I think the attitude comes because you can't do it.
That's where it comes from. It comes from
and
I
it,
can't do it, and why are you asking me to do that?
and to say the same thing for a lot of women. A lot of women have attitude because they can't cook either. There's a whole lot of women who can't even boil a bag of rice.
Yeah.
Well, 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 well.
I mean,
Well,
it works both ways. So
it,
this is why the balance is important. And I think that when we look at the schooling system, the like Lady Yamina said, certain things were taken out of the school, which are
yeah.
life skills. It's a
Hmm.
life skill for you to cook. If there's no woman around, how are you going to eat, sir?
Ask Jacob. Jacob was over there cooking. That's how we got this started. Jacob
That's
was
what I
over there
was gonna
cooking
say.
lentils.
That's what I was going to say. And besides that, the priest, when
Right? They
the
had to cook.
Levitical priests, they cooked.
They was over there
Yes.
doing flatbread.
Hmm.
Yes.
Um,
So
but for
so if their wives died and they had all these children, what were you doing in between the time you got a new wife? You had to
wait,
take care of the children, right? Or
wait,
find somebody to do that.
John. So I thank you everybody for joining us. We have Deborah on the panel. John, click the link, man, brother. Click the link. He says, if you want to watch the video from the beginning, no, John, we're just going to read on the screen because I haven't pre-screened it yet. Let me know which one of these talking points you want to go into as we're having this conversation about masculine and feminine energy. I didn't want to put verses, the article says it, but for the sake of time, we're gonna hear what John is saying and look at what he asked us to look at. Why toxic masculinity is great. These are some talking points. You guys can tell me if you agree, disagree. Masculinity doesn't fear death. Masculinity is defined by sacrifice. So the masculinity does not represent weakness. Masculinity demands respect. And masculinity loves women and womanhood. I would have to listen to this thing in context while I'm driving and doing something because it's long. But one of the things I find funny, and then I'm going to give the mic over, is masculinity does not represent weakness. But if we look at the male genitalia, it is the most vulnerable part on his body,
I
but it is
was
the
about to
very thing
say
that defines his masculinity.
there have been doctors that said they had to sew his parts back together.
Okay? So that's very weird. The very thing that defines masculinity, right, is the weakest point on the body. It's the most susceptible to injury. It's the first thing you
But
go to
but that
grab to
but
protect if
that
somebody's
doesn't
coming for you.
but that doesn't define a man. No,
For
it does.
some, we're
It
talking
doesn't.
about we're talking about masculine. If oftentimes when they say the person is emasculated, right, that they don't feel like a man. If a man is impotent, he's not going to feel like a man.
Yeah, but
Oftentimes,
but
it's
but
connected.
but this list here doesn't talk about any of that. I
No,
don't
it doesn't. That's why
I
I'm
don't
just
see
reading the
that.
list. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But
And
I was
so
just, yeah.
masculinity is not should not only be defined by his genitalia. We're talking about building great things. Men in the beginning were the builders. They were building the pyramids. It wasn't the women that were building the pyramids. This is what men were doing. So we have to me to re-examine, you know, look, number one, doesn't fear death. Okay, I could see that to some degree, because if you look at the Titanic, the story of the Titanic, the men put the women in the boats. Some men jumped in the boats, but the others stayed behind because they knew that the women were going to keep society going by having, they may get remarried, they may have other children, but they sacrificed. Many men today would not do that. They would jump on that boat quicker than any
They'll
woman.
kick her in the water.
They would, you understand? So when you say a man is not afraid to die, that's one of the examples that you could use. A man going to war is a man who is not afraid to die. How many men are signing up to be part of the army, the Air Force, the Marines? How many?
For those who just
I
joined
mean, if
us,
if
let me
you're
let
on
me
the
drop
if
the
you're
link.
on the internet all day, my friend, you're not at war. You're not sacrificing yourself.
They are at war, sis. It's called keyboard war.
um
It's called
and then and
keyboard
then and
warfare.
then to look at masculinity, number 3, masculinity does not respect weakness. Weakness in whom? In what defines weakness?
That's back to the same thing we were talking about earlier, that
because
John was speaking to.
because a woman having a baby, a woman living a single woman is definitely not a weak woman, because a single mother is probably one of the strongest people on the planet.
Who thinks here that the woman is the symbol of weakness? Because again, you bring up a point. Weakness in whom? Maybe he does, for in all fairness, maybe he these are just his bullet points and he actually goes into
And masculinity number 4, masculinity demands respect. Yes, I can see that. I can see respecting a man who is a builder. I can see respecting a man who goes to war. I can see respecting a man who builds up his community. I can respect a man who is a father and takes care of his family and doesn't leave a woman to be a single parent. I could respect that. So yes, I could see where real masculinity demands respect. Number 5, masculinity loves women and womanhood. Womanhood is very complex. It's it's multifaceted.
Y'all gonna make me have to click the video, which I'm not prepared to do so at this time. 'Cause I
but
want to know
but
what
he
exactly.
brought it up. So we're looking at the front page talking
Right, we're
points.
looking at the talking points. We have Deborah in the house. She's been patient. Deborah, you can share your thoughts.
Okay. I'm feeling. Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening,
It is.
Deborah.
Yes. Hello. Hello. Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom.
I always come in like Sally come lately. I'm sorry about that. But I was listening in, and I'm the type of person that sometimes words get stuck in my mind. And in this case, the word to demand. And in
Mm,
the English, the word man is encapsulated in that word.
Yes.
Demand, ruling, reigning seem to be verbs, at least in the English,
Yes.
that vibrate a certain sense of power.
Mhm.
That could mean that it gives us women a sense of confidence and of protection. But it can also mean the opposite.
Mhm.
It can also turn into a threat because it is demanding a certain submission. And submission doesn't really work when there's a lack of trust.
Yes.
So whatever you vibrate, or as a person, in this case a man, it can only walk limp when there is no trust. Remember when Jacob came out of his battle with the angel?
Yes.
He demanded from the angel to be blessed. He wouldn't let go until he was blessed. And then what happened?
He was
did
wounded.
get blessed. He was hit on the hip.
Yes.
He was touched on the hip, and then he was limping afterwards.
Yes.
I always thought that was rather odd because it's
Mhm.
like it's basically an injury that could function both ways. Like when soldiers come out some kind of battle, they show their wounds of war, their scars, and some boast about it because they've been to Vietnam, they've been to Iraq, or who knows where, their
Mhm.
battle wounds, scars.
Yes.
But in the case of Jacob, who got another name, I wonder when he actually mentioned that to Esau, he actually got another name. I don't know. But when he was limping out of that battle, I once read that since Esau was the type of man with a high level, most likely of testosterone, which caused an excessive type of hair growth. Don't ask me, hypertricho, whatever it is, I forgot the name.
Mhm.
And it is seen to be related to a high dose of testosterone in certain males.
Uh-huh.
And those type of males, sort of like the Klingons, I don't know if you're familiar with Star Trek.
No, you didn't say Klingons.
the Klingons and
Hilarious.
the females too are liking the Hittite women of Esau to Klingon women.
Hilarious.
Houses of the women of Duras. Anyhow, well, I'm going back now. I'm going a bit off now.
Mm.
But a real hunter, a real Klingon, has only joy in fighting an opponent of a certain class, level, and strength. So when Esau saw Jacob limping towards him, it just dropped. It was like, I ain't gonna fight a dude with a limping leg. There is no honor in there.
There's no honor in that.
There is no honor in that at all.
Yeah, there's no honor.
So
yeah,
even though it was very surprising that Jacob got a wound on the hip, he could have had a wound everywhere. I mean, maybe on his forehead or on his shoulder, but your leg,
But
for goodness sake.
But Deborah, you said something really important here. Hunter.
A hunter.
A hunter.
Esau was a hunter.
But I'm what I want to say to that, what I want to address with that is men used to go out and get the meat and bring it back home for the woman to cook. That was part of what they did as masculine men. They were hunters.
Yes, but not in all societies.
Yeah, but there was somebody had to do it.
When people were given over to meat because of their life circumstances, right? But when there was we should never forget that meat was a luxury. We tend to think that meat is a necessity. It's secondhand food.
No, that's true.
But it is a badge of power. When you have a chieftain, I hope I'm not talking too long.
No, Deborah, you dropping some jewels. I'm over here considering what you're saying as it relates to
it's amazing.
How the Torah describes Esau, that he was hairy and Jacob was smooth, and how that relates to hormones. And you dropping some jewels. You hear me quiet over here. I'm thinking
dropping jewels.
Yeah, you dropping some knowledge right now. Thank you so much for sharing. Go ahead. I'm going to click the link because John is saying that he's going to elaborate on masculinity, and I like to hear what people have to say on that. But go ahead, finish your thought before I click the link.
Okay, so societies where meat plays an important role, it is a badge of power. The head or chieftain or king priest, when he throws a party, there's always meat and there's always wine, because that shows that he's in power. He rules the people, right?
Yes.
That was the case with Nimrod. That was the case with Belshazzar. Right? That was the case with Alexander the Great. And that's still the case with certain tribes in Africa.
Yes.
Now, in the Middle East, that would only be the case because if they're nomads, that would only be the case when you honor the Creator. The first batch of meat goes to the Creator on the altar. You're not going to gobble it down before you sacrifice it to the Creator. That's just not done. Well, in hunter societies, it first goes to the king because the king is considered to be the god.
Yes.
Now, if you derive that type of masculinity, you have a totally different image of masculinity than when you have the nomadic tribes after Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and even after Ishmael. Although Ishmael and his offspring diverted from that way.
Yes.
So what we are presented by in our education for many generations now is the tough hunter-gatherer. And that does not only pertain to African people or tribes from Africa, I should say, but also Europeans, Asians, Mexicans, pre-Columbian. There is this myth that a true man is always a hunter. Well, I dare to challenge that. Because how do you define a true man? When you go to inspired script, a true man is one who can control his mind, his hand, first of all. And then he's assigned to the title of a good husband because he rules his household in righteousness, because he can control his urges,
Yes.
his bad temper, and he
Yes.
can anticipate what is correct for his whole household.
Yes.
Whether from the older people, maybe his parents or his in-laws or aunties or whatever you got traveling along with you, to the smallest one. Now, in the case of Jacob said, I'm not going to travel that fast because I need to take care of the young kid goats, whatever he had, kid children, young ones, basically women and elderly people. So he was a man who would take into consideration everybody's interest.
Yes.
Esau, on the contrary, was a man who was in a rush, which you will encounter as soon as he was hungry. He wanted to eat straight away. Esau lacked self-discipline in his appetite.
Come on through.
So if you show a lack of discipline in your appetite, it is very likely you will also show a lack of discipline in your sexual appetite.
Yes.
It does not only pertain to literal food. So you have two opposite types of man. One is referred by the world.
It pertains to judgment.
Sorry?
It pertains to using your judgment and how you are going to move in the world.
Yes. So one is the typology of the children of Cain, which was also a man who could not control his appetite, or what he wanted had to happen. So you have in scripture always have two lineage of the man who is revered by the world as rulers, hunters, and people who want it now, men who want it now. And you have the type who are the men according to the image and likeness of the Creator, with self-restraint, self-control, anticipation, and taking to heart. How do you say that? Yes, taking by heart the whole family clan.
Yes.
Not just your own interest as a ruler. Now, to me, those are two pivotal, significant differences in character traits and action, which are basically in the Hebrew is referred to as the sham, because the sham does not only pertain to the Creator himself, but to everybody who follows his sham, his character or his image and likeness en route. Walk and not talk that way, but walk that way. That's just why I understand Jacob was limping. And Esau was always in a hurry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop now. It's long enough.
All right, now for those who just joined us, Deborah came in here and look, now she dropped it. She dropped it. It's definitely many things to consider as we're having this discussion, as we're looking for definitions that we can see, that we can understand, and that we can define together. Because again, without working definitions, we can't have progressive conversation, because it's just going to always be button heads. So thank you so much for that. For those who just joined us, we are going to wind down a little bit. We at 1:45. It's flowing, right? If you missed it, you're going to have to come back to the beginning. John asked, thanks. Well, hold on, sis. I wanted to acknowledge that John has been asking me to take a look at this, and we were asking about what the brother meant. So if I can, I'm just going to go ahead and play what. Hopefully there's no profanity in here, John. Hopefully there's no profanity. If it is, then I'm gonna play his definition, and then we can continue, and then I'm gonna give a little time for everybody to say their piece, and then we'll wind down. Let me know if you can hear it.
Masculinity does not respect weakness. We've been told that we're toxic.
Jason Black.
Masculinity makes.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him. So give me a moment. I don't know this person, but hold on.
Us demanding of ourselves. It makes us demanding of others. It makes us uncompromising in what we do. we've been told that masculinity is toxic under those circumstances. But understand, masculinity knows that the life we enjoy today is the result of the men who came before us, who sacrificed before us. And most importantly, they knew that we were their children and they would not make excuses for why they didn't give us a better life. And now we owe it to our children to do for them what was done for us. When a child falls and scrapes his knee or fails to pass the test in school, the mother will come and pick him up and make him comfortable with his failure and soothe him in his failed condition. The masculine demands more. The masculine understands that children cannot be protectors and providers. Therefore, we don't seek to infantilize the children. Children need to be protected as babies. Babies are helpless. Babies are fragile. But you are not here to remain a baby. It is the masculine that leads you into the world of leadership, protection, and provision. And that is very uncomfortable for the feminine because the feminine has invested itself in, quote, protecting you. The masculine is that which teaches you to risk everything, including death. The one thing that the feminine cannot bear to see that which is cared for endure. And the masculine is willing to lead you into that every time because that is your duty and that is his.
Okay.
Only adults can be protectors and providers. So when the child falls, as the masculine, we don't ask him why he fell. We don't ask him why he failed. We tell them that we expect them to stand up and keep going. Because if the boy makes excuses to his mother, then when he becomes an adult, he will make excuses to his family. He will make excuses to his children. He will make excuses to the rest of the society.
All right, that was interesting. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, again, I have a son. He's generalizing mothers and fathers and how they relate to their children. But concerning not taking excuses, you have some mothers who will take excuses. You also have fathers who will take excuses from their sons and daughters. And then you have mothers who won't accept excuses. So it really depends on the person who is in the space of a mother and a father. Right? If my son comes to me with excuses or he's not taking responsibility, I don't allow him not to take responsibility. Right? That's one of the things that as he's growing now, his father and I have to be on him about. And so I can see how he would come to that conclusion, but I'm not in full agreement as it relates to just letting your child get away with just, just failing. And but what are your thoughts?
I would like to know the definition of making excuses.
Right. I don't know.
Yes, me too.
I agree. Okay.
I would, want to know the definition of I think we are very hard on our children. Maybe I'm generalizing, could be because I'm a woman. It could be, but I think we are very hard on our Black children. This,
Yes.
Yeah. That's that's my take on it.
Dr. Joy DeGruy, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with her work. She speaks about yes, I would agree that depending on where you are, what culture you grow up in, it's going to have certain extra expectations beyond you just being a child. But the expectation, the preventative measures for what society around you is going to say, right? That's not only going to reflect on the child, it's going to reflect on the adult as well, right? So certain things that other cultures and nationalities are it's okay for them. When you have a melanated child, it's those little childlike things are not always accepted. So sometimes the parent preempts what society will say and put extra burdens on their children because of it. And to a certain degree, it's survival. I know it's a lot and it's heavy. To a certain degree, it's he spoke to a little bit to it. It's survival. John, what's the definition of making excuses? Are you serious, bro? Stop playing. Um, no, he says he's not going to ask the child why he fell. I listen actively. He said, I'm not going to ask the child why you fell. I'm going to tell you to get up and keep going. For instance, if someone works track and field, somebody runs track and field. I've known people in my life who run track and field. My blood brother ran track and field all the way to the Olympics. Okay. They watch the tape. They take themselves, they rewatch the tape, and they examine. Just because you're examining why the person fell, why you had a late start, why you had a false start, doesn't make you meaning making excuses. So when he says that he's not going to ask the child anything and he's going to just say get up, that means the child could just fall again and not know why they're doing it. So this is why I think the question is, what are you defining as making an excuse? You can be identifying what happened and fix it so that doesn't happen again. Or you can just tell the person, get up and just keep going. Get up and just keep going. Keep going and doing what? How do I improve myself? How do I become better if I'm not able to analyze, if you as a parent are not able to walk me through the parts that I came up short at? That's what frustrates children because they don't know what you're asking them to correct.
Hmm.
Right there, you're not giving them real instruction. You're not giving them real direction. You're just yelling or screaming at them or demanding something of them, and you're not pointing them in the direction of how do I fix this. So,
Basically,
mhm,
you're not giving them Torah.
correct. You're not giving them Torah. Correct. So that's that. I mean, again, this is what I'm saying when we're having conversation. I notice that sometimes when you ask something that somebody may feel is simplistic, they're going to project what they think you should understand from it as opposed to being present in the conversation. If someone says define excuse, just define excuse. It doesn't mean you're making you're because you don't know what the person defines as an excuse. And so in having open, positive conversation, it's okay to be patient with the other person. In the same way you want them to hear what you're saying, take a moment. They may not be on the same page that you are. Give them a moment and help them get there.
Well, in my information, I'm familiar with Jason Black's channel, and he is somebody who's very assertive. I don't know him personally, but he appears to be assertive in the way that he delivers his messages. He's
Hmm.
clear and he explains things fully. And I think that masculine men who are led and guided by Torah assess the world that they live in, and they know that they have to build something for their children.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that they have to build something for their women. They also know that they have to build for the elders. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a mantle on a healthy masculine man in society. The unhealthy ones do not explain anything. It's just give the order and that's it. There's no patience for teaching. A man can teach. A man teaches his son how to be a man. A man can teach.
And you have to have patience. Like we go back to the gardener, you have to have patience. You're leading sheep, you have to have patience. You're a herdsman, you have to have patience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making these assumptions or like, shout out to you, John, but automatically when someone asks a question, you go to, well, the person is not dumb. You know what I mean? Why can't you get this? that's showing that there's a lack of patience and extension. I don't know if you've ever taught little children. They're not gonna, and not saying that people on here are little children, but people come with it pre-programmed. What you call making an excuse, somebody else may not call that making an excuse. If I say, why did you fall? And you say, because there was something in my way. Oh, you made an excuse? No, you asked for understanding. Why did the person fall? Because there was something in their way. Now get up and keep moving. Not,
Can
oh,
I?
you fell on the floor, get up and keep moving. Like, wait a minute. what, because somebody else might come right behind you and fall again.
Yeah. Well, the image I'm having years ago when I just started on YouTube, that was before Facebook. There were these beautiful drawings of a brother who would carry his wife and child on top of his shoulders while climbing a mountain.
I
I don't
remember
know
that
if,
one. Yes.
yes. Now, a real man of righteous heart and character, he had also a walking stick with him, like a staff and a rod, will carry the ones he is responsible for on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
What you see with vain kings and rulers, they have their servants carry them.
Mm-hmm.
Every single depiction of royalty, of people who do not understand the staff or the rod of the Creator,
Mm-hmm.
will have their people carry them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I find that very significant, that type of attitude. That means that a ruler of a worldly flavor, for lack of a better word, expects the people to serve him or
Mm-hmm.
her. While one who is under the rulership of the Creator knows that he is assigned to rule, to serve, or to minister unto the ones he is responsible for their safety and their well-being. This is why Jacob was a person who would carry a staff. Esau most likely wasn't one who was carrying a staff or a rod.
And Moses was carrying a staff.
Moses was too. So when you kind of backtrack the leaders in the Tanakh, nearly all of them are mentioned ones who lead people, always with a rod or a staff. And this is why David says, what was that psalm again? Your rod or your staff comforts me. I think that's Psalm 23.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So the way David sees Yahweh or the Creator is like his shepherd, and he is more than happy to follow him like a sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this attitude is healing. It helps us to be on a pleasant level, a learning level, a healing level with one another. Because when we recognize the voice of our shepherd and we follow him because he's the one with the staff, then we feel safe. Then we are green pastures and still waters and the whole lot. That is what I understand to be trust.
And see, to add to your point, in the Torah and the Bible, women are submit to their husbands, but the man is supposed to submit to God.
Exactly.
And
otherwise he's not worthy.
And that's greater than all of us, because God will give him the wisdom, the patience, the temperance, the vision. And if he has all of those things, then the woman will follow him, will submit to him, because she knows, to use in modern terms, that he's not a toxic, destructive, unwise man.
All right. Thank you guys for sharing that. Beautiful conversation. Sometimes I just like to sit back and listen. Sometimes I like to sit back and listen. As we um as we close this here live stream, I wanted to just take a moment to do something that simply helps the conversation flow. Great information about the Torah, by the way. The question is about excuses. John is saying we don't need to explain to a grown blinkety blink adult what making excuses mean. They're literally trolling at this point and running games so they can be happily failing. Okay. Um
I can't.
this is
How come,
you
how come John is not in the actually in the
yeah,
like
the
us
link is
here?
there. Yeah. I would
Yeah.
love for him to click the link. Are you making an excuse, John? Why are you not clicking the link?
Lady Deborah, we have been over this on how many shows we've asked you to come up.
Yeah. Click the link, and so
Uh-huh.
basically, if somebody gives a reason for something,
Hmm.
if they've stopped, then they have let that become an excuse. But identifying why something has happened, it's like, why can't I go shop in Tulsa, Oklahoma's Black Wall Street? Because it no longer exists. Is that an
Uh-huh.
excuse, or am I identifying the reason why I cannot go shop there? Right? So we tend to get triggered. I don't know why, but I'm just going to read the definition for excuse just to humor myself. Attempt
Mm-hmm.
to lessen the blame attaching
Mm-hmm.
to a fault or offense. Seek to
Mm-hmm.
defend or justify. So if you're identifying something and you're giving a reason, back to what the man said, this is how we got onto the excuses about what the man doesn't accept weakness in, and he's talking about a child, and he's saying that the mother is going to make excuses for the child, but the father's going to say, I'm not going to ask you why you fell, just get up and keep going. I contested that, because asking the child why they fell or what happened is not allowing them to make an excuse unless you accept that as why you quit or why you can no longer go on, right?
What's to me, what's greater is what are you going to do when you get up?
Right. He
And
didn't even
and
get, I
and
mean, in
the
all fairness, he didn't.
and the reason why you need to get up. I'm going to
Yep.
give you a reason why you need to get up.
But in all fairness, he says, click, make him, keep explaining his point. And I personally like listening to what somebody has to say in fullness. But for the sake of time and for the sake of the conversation, he asks to listen. This is why we, have issues in communication. And then because the person doesn't wholly see it the way we may see it, then we feel like we have to, start wrangling with the person when they begin to ask questions, you know.
Like that jeans, Wrangler jeans,
Yeah, we over here
Levi's,
wrangling.
Wrangler jeans.
Like
Oh,
we don't have to wrangle. Like, somebody's not trolling. This is not a trolling channel.
yeah.
How long have you been over here? People don't, I don't do trolling. We're looking for edifying conversation. So my point is, sometimes we just have to readjust in the conversation, so that it can move forward. Because what I don't like, I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. And for those who know me on YouTube, know I disappeared for, like, and it's not an excuse, 6, 7, 8 months. Like, Amuna, where you been at? I don't like when the needle doesn't move. When we come back 3, 4, 5 months, years later, and we're still having the same conversation, and no one can say, hey, this is the work that I've done. This is how I've moved the needle forward. So usually when I disappear, it's to move the needle, because I do not like stagnancy, and I have plenty of other things to do. Like right now, going to read my book assignment, than to just be, shooting the breeze on YouTube. So when I come on YouTube and share my time and the platform and open it up, it's hopefully that people can get information that they can take into their everyday life and affect change where they are. So that's for John and anyone else who comes in. Deborah has been around for a moment, knows that I don't just come on here just because I have nothing else to do, right? So prayerfully, we're using these opportunities and these conversations to first and foremost make changes in our own life and affect real life changes with our real life relationships. Because if we don't show up in the world as who we pretend to be online, we're wasting our time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had to do the little soapbox moment for a minute, because this is how we kind of like we hamstring the conversation. We kick it to where we want it to be, and when everybody follows in that corner, nothing happens. You know what I mean? When everybody goes like, oh, now that I'm over here, and it's like, oh, the conversation, I don't feel like, you know what, I got somewhere. I don't like that feeling. So, John, you're welcome to click the link anytime. Anybody else who's listening is welcome to click the link. And sometimes we just have to reassess and extend the same amount of respect that we want others to extend on to us.
And
I
you,
always keep wondering. Sorry, I always keep wondering when, in this case, it's John. I don't know the brother personally, is when people are inclined to state the absolute, because that it is coming across like that to me. Like, you actually put the mother and the father on the extreme opposites of
Right.
each other, and
Right.
the child in the middle.
Right.
Right? Now, nothing is more confusing to a child than to be pulled in two different directions by the mother or by the father. That's psychologically and emotionally a bad thing to do for a child, particularly because children's brains are very sensitive to the impressions the parents give this child verbally, non-verbally, the tone setting of their voice, the movements, the way the parents look at each other. That's not a good imprint for the neural network. So if you put yourself on the opposites of each other because you believe that is the right thing to do, for whatever definition you have for masculinity versus femininity, that's not cooperating.
Right.
That's counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
Femininity and masculinity
Are
are supposed
complementary.
to, yes, they need to link with the child safely in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It should never be a competition of power between parents. That's why it's always a very unwise thing to do, to argue in front of very young children, babies, even when you're pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
It has a shocking effect on the neural development of a baby, even when the baby is still in the womb of the mother, because the mother will excrete or secrete, or whatever you call it, certain hormones in her bloodstream.
That's
when
right.
she's under stress, and it
Cortisol.
will affect, yes, it will affect the development of the fetus in the baby, and
Agreed.
babies have a physical memory. So once the baby is born and the baby or the toddler experience the same tone setting between the parents as in war in the house, it becomes very conflicting for this child, because the child is forced to make a choice of alliance.
Yes.
And that's facts. I want to say, John, no one, I think we're missing and I'm gonna wind down because I really got to go read these chapters. But I think we're missing, no one is contesting that children need to learn to get up, right? We just only heard a snippet, to be fair, of what the man was saying. Maybe he goes into detail in the totality. And this is what I'm saying. We tend to, if the person doesn't wholly swallow what's being said, we go to the extreme, like Deborah is talking about, and think that somebody's saying the child needs to just sit there and wallow. No one said that. I didn't hear anybody say that.
No.
Nobody didn't say that the child didn't. My contesting was the method in which you encourage the child or anyone to get back up. If you don't learn from the why you fell and how you fell, then how do you prevent it? Like I said, back to the track and field. When you go back and you look at, I used to run. When you look at your starts, you have to look at all the different aspects of how you're on the starting line, and the errors that you may be making to improve yourself. Not just get back on the track and do it again. You could just do it 100 times more wrong. You know what I mean? You can do it 100 times more wrong. So it's a process. That's all we're saying. And you need both. It's not versus complementary. It's and hopefully, if we don't take anything else from this stream, is to work to make these things work, to make these two energies within us work together as well as in the world that we live in. We're gonna go ahead and wind down.
Just one shorty.
Wait a minute. The problem is that
Oh,
everyone
sorry.
wants to make masculine and feminine subjective. And then when the woman wants to be the man in a relation, no, that's wrong in the sense of I had a whole conversation of trying not to make it subjective. But we keep coming back. I said it in the beginning of this conversation. I said if we look universally at the principles, but for some reason we keep coming back to the man and woman before we stay in the space where it's not subjective. So it's something when the water is flowing in this course, to me, it's showing that this is where the issue is. Right? It's like whenever something is wrong, somebody wants to keep going back talking, oh, but let's talk about my toe. But like, we ain't talking about your toe right now. So we just keep talking about the toe. I don't know why. And that shows me that that's where the issue is. That's where the need is. And this is where people just keep pulling it back to man and woman relationship. But again, everybody's not trying to make it subjective. That's another generalization. I started off this stream trying to make it objective. I said, look in nature. We back to the man and woman again. I said, look at the plants. They're like, back to the man and woman again. I'm like, what? Can we not look at the sun and the moon? Back to the man and the woman again. I'm like, what in the world is going on here?
To me,
We're
that's a
self-centered.
distraction.
We are so
That's been
self-centered.
our whole.
We are.
That's
It's
see,
all
we just
about
like, you know
us.
what? Just forget
We're
it.
the sun. We are the sun in our own universe of thinking.
It's true. It's true.
We have bigger fish to fry. I think it's a distraction, and we need to move on.
Right. We're gonna wind down though, because I know I really got to go read these chapters. I want to thank everybody for tuning in.
Sorry.
Wait. Okay, John. I'm just gonna John. If you don't click this link, I don't know how much more of this stuff I'm gonna read, but I'm gonna read one more. Y'all. The issue is that you mentioned is that people today are content listening to failures in life that don't have a track record of success, and they tell kids, do it again, and they keep losing.
Oh God, I can't. It's a
Do
distraction.
it again, Sam.
It's okay. We're gonna remain respectful. This is why when one person is typing and one person is speaking audibly, it makes it difficult because you don't know what specific point they're responding to. And this is the difficulty in different modes of communication. I understand that, so I'm not going to get upset. You know, again, we can have the conversation, it would flow better if either both people are talking one at a time. But for the sake of time, there's plenty of people that are content to listen to failure. I agree with that. The whole O-sphere, the whole O-sphere, a lot of people in the O-sphere, and we'll call it, is content with listening to people who have failed. There's something about it. But I'm thinking, hold on.
I can hear it. Your brain
The
moving.
wheels are turning, right?
Yes.
As it
Get
relates
some
to
coconut oil.
Yeah,
Put some
yeah,
coconut oil in.
This is not no dang Torah or spiritual issues. We're talking about how masculine. Well, if you don't think that it's Torah related, then you don't understand Torah. And I'm not trying to be rude. If you don't think this is spiritually related, then you don't understand really spirituality, because there's no masculine and feminine without spirituality. I don't know how you're going to make that happen. Right? Because everything in creation in this seen world comes from the unseen, which is the spiritual realm. So I'm not certain how you're going to get to the issues of what's happening between the male and female if you don't understand the essence of the thing. So
Yeah.
with that said, hopefully
Torah is life.
we'll meditate on that just a little bit. I want to thank you for coming by. I want to thank you for coming by, and we always need different voices so that it helps us to, unpack certain things within a conversation. So I appreciate the opposing views. Everybody have a blessed night. We'll talk again soon.
Yes.
Good night.
To the Rabbah.
All
Laila
right.
Tov,
Shalom.
Erev
Shalom.
Tov, whatever. It's late here. Thank you, sisters.